Hello, how are you tonight? It is another moment that we want to learn something concerning loss and grief management. Uh, in one way or the other, you have ever lost something in your life. Maybe you are walking the street, majestically walking, and somebody comes in your pocket, snatch your phone, and eventually you come to realize that you don't have the phone. The feeling that you went through is what we call grief because of loss of a phone. And traditionally, loss and grief are associated with death. In fact, loss is than much broader concept. At, at its broadest, loss refers to being deprived of or cease to have something that one formerly possessed or to which one was attached to. Maybe you have been deprived. So when the thief snatched your phone, the phone has been deprived from you. And now what the body response to that is what we call grief. There are different types of losses that can bring grief. In general, losses can be understood in either two ways: developmental loss, and situational loss. Developmental loss, let's look at developmental loss. Developmental loss are those occurred by most people and are related to maturation and continued development. We talk about developmental loss are those that uh, are, are incurred, that are incurred by most people during maturation. We talk about maturation is due to your growth, the way you are growing, due to maturation, continued development. And this losses usually brings about gain as well as loss. Then, for example, the origin of loss, every living human being was birth. The first loss was birth. Each of us lost the perfect physical environment, our mother's wombs. Very comfortable, very warm place, very cool place. But all of a sudden, we lost it. And when we lost this, we started by grieving. And we gain personhood. After losing this particular loss in our mother's womb, this particular place in our mother's womb, we now gained personhood, being a person. Another maturation loss involves a life at secondary sex characteristics. This is whereby people go through adolescence and the loss of innocent childhood. Now you lose the childhood and you gain the ability to conceive and to bear children. Now you can conceive and bear children. Then from there, other types of developmental losses includes getting married, loss of independence, and gain of intimacy. You lose independence, you gain intimacy. Loss of freedom, gain of parenthood. Then you start bearing children. Sometimes you lose as just gaining children. You gain parenthood. Then together with that comes with retirement, the loss of some identity and perhaps some income with gaining of some freedom and independencies. Then you lose income, you lose the identity. I was a teacher, I was a whatever, I was a policeman, I was who. You lose that particular identity and also the income that was associated with it, but you gain freedom. You are free. You are free and independence. Then we have number two, another cause number two of loss and grief. We have situational losses. Situational losses are less seen and are usually anticipated with anxiety. They are always associated with anxiety and fear. What are these examples? Physical loss refers to the loss of something tangible that is no longer present. You had something that you can touch, maybe a phone, a relative that has died. Involves physical loss, probably or destruction of objects. Relational loss refers to losing a relationship. Relational loss refers to losing a relationship with someone to whom one has attachment with. Sometimes when we talk about relational loss, it is under situational loss, but it's whereby a relationship has been broken, either by divorce or by death, whereby you had been inclined to somebody and attached that particular person, but at this particular moment, the person is dead, or there is divorce or separation, and people separate, and that is the end of the relationship. Uh, an example of relational loss is, again, death causes the loss of relationship, or that's divorce, interpersonal breakups, or other losses such as loss of job or moving, where ties between individuals are consequently. Loss of job, you are employed and now you lose the job. Uh, that is a loss because there was a gaining. There was benefit that you was gaining through that particular job, and now it is now gone. Then there is something else very important. We call it symbolic loss. Is intangible, involving the loss of psychological or spiritual attachment, such as the loss of one's dreams and hopes. Symbolic loss, intangible, things that are not touchable. You have lost your dreams. You have been dreaming of becoming certain thing, but it is now lost. You have hope of something. Now you are hopeless. It might be due to some illness, killing your hope. Maybe due to something other things that can bring hopelessness. Maybe due to addiction in drugs. It brings the end of your dreams and the end of your hope, and you become hopeless. There is something else that we call anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief. It is still under there. Anticipatory grief refers to the mourning experienced by patients, family, and others of life-threatening illness. People with life-threatening illness, such as cancer, such as high blood pressure, such as diabetes, such as kidney failure, and such chronic illness. People have an anticipated grief, whereby you are expecting that this particular person, or you are expecting to die at a particular moment. Then from there we have other things we can learn about loss and grief and the causes. We have secondary losses, or losses that follow after consequences of primary loss. For example, the loss of job may also entail series of losses. The loss of self-esteem and income and friends and dreams. If you lose your job, that's a primary cause of loss and grief. But loss of self-esteem is associated with what you're doing. Somebody else may lose a relative after getting the information that he has lost his relative. You get somebody now starts mourning. He can hit his head on the wall, and eventually that particular person develops another problem. That's secondary grieving. That's secondary loss. He may end up breaking his leg, or sometimes you find somebody has corrupted. This is what we call secondary loss as a result of the primary loss. We can define the word grief. Grief or grieving is arises as a reaction of loss. Specifically, grief can be defined as psychic energy that results from tension created by the individual's strong desire. Grief or grieving arises as a reaction to loss. Specifically, grief can be defined as psychic energy that results from tension created by individuals' strong desire. This is what we call grief. Tensions that are coming as a result, strong desire to maintain his or her assumptive world as it was before loss. You are trying to maintain the world that you are in before the loss. You are now to maintain yourself with a phone that has been snatched by a thief. Accommodate to a new emerging reality resulting from his loss. trying to accommodate the reality, to accept the reality, trying to negotiate the reality of the loss that has occurred. Incorporate this new reality into the emerging assumptive world. Trying now to accommodate this reality or to incorporate this reality in the modern world of staying without a phone or staying without a relative who has passed on. It is that conflict between the world that is and world that cannot be and how it may become that creates the tension and agenda and engender grief. The world that was, what it cannot be and how it can become that creates the tension that engender grief. This grief energy is converted into various domains of human experiences, including physical, affective, cognitive, and spiritual. These internal experiences are often expressed outwardly in varied grief-related behavior. Grief then can be perceived in this broader sense as emotion, an attempt to make internal and external adjustments to undesired change in one's world brought upon by loss. Grief triggers changes in various adoption systems: affective, physical, spiritual, and cognitive, that constitute the individual's response tendency. Types of grievers. People grieves in different way. So we have different types of grievers. We have instrumental grievers. They respond behaviorally to the loss. They involve themselves in activities. They evaluate the experience cognitively rather than experiencing them emotionally. These people we call instrumental grievers. They are not seen weeping. They are not seen being sad, but they are ever busy trying to implement 1, 2, 3 during the time of preparation of burial. Others, if they have lost an item, they will look ways of acquiring another item immediately, but they are still going through the grief. So their grief is always centered on implementations of things. That's why they are called instrumental grievers. They evaluate the experience cognitively rather than experiencing them emotionally. They don't experience these things emotionally, but they experience them cognitively. We talk about cognitively, is whereby they are thinking about that particular grief and what solution they can get. So they are solution based. They are solution based grievers. Sometimes if somebody has died, they want to know the cause of death. They want to know the possible ways of burying this particular person. They want to know the way forward immediately. But others we have emotionally. They are going to cry, they are going to mourn, but instrumental grievers, they are never seen being sad. Then you have feminization, from the word feminine, of grief, expressing emotion and seeking support and help from others. These people that are feminization of grief, they seek support, they cry, they mourn, they seek support from others. Mostly it is done by women. Instrumental grievers are mostly done by men because they are used in providing. So the moment now they are grieving, they see as if they are not doing their duty. So they have they support and seek areas that they can support it from other people. Then we also have cognitive and active problem solving approach done by instrumental grievers, done mostly by men. They show limited, muted emotions response to the loss. They also value self-reliance and solitude in coping with the loss. This is always done by instrumental grievers, who are mostly men. Then you have intuitive grieving, Grieving is affected by a number of things, e.g., culture, gender, and socialization, birth order, temperaments, and other factors. Gender can influence but does not determine the grief. Talk about intuitive grieving, is whereby a person they are grieving according to their culture, according to what they believe, according to their inner value, the way they have been valuing this particular person that has been passed on. Then we have how does the body react during this particular moment of grief. We have physical reaction. Physical reactions can be include a wide range of somatic complaints and distress, including headache. A person who is grieving may complain of headache, muscular aches, kuumwa na viungo, the nausea, tiredness and exhaustion, menstrual irregulations. Sometimes their menstrual may be irregular, loss of appetite, pain, insomnia. Insomnia is lack of sleepiness. Then tenseness. Somebody may feel tense. Then we have how do you feel? The affective reactions. The affective reaction. The energy of grief commonly manifests in affect. Individual can experience a wide range of affective response, including sadness, anger, guilt, jealousy, anxiety, shame, sensitivity to noise. Then you have another reaction is cognitive, how the mind works. Then you have obsessive thinking about that particular thing that I have done. Then you have inability to concentrate, lack of concentration. Then you have fantasizing, trying to make fantasies about what has happened. Then you have empathy. Then you have dreams and disorientation and confusion. Disorientation and confusion. Then you have behavior experiences. How does the behavior look like? The different reactions that people experience in each of these four responses, tendencies, physical, affective, cognitive, and spiritual, may be outwardly expressed as a behavior. Among the observable behavior of grief are crying, illness-related behavior, observable symptoms, expression of illness, outward expressions of emotions, e.g., anger and euphoria, observable changes in religious, spiritual, and behavioral expressions, searching for behaviors, avoiding or seeking reminders of the loss, obsessive activity, activities that provide some sense of continued connection to the loss, physical activities, e.g., exercise and gardening, etc., social withdrawal, then accidents because of absent-minded, change from pre-loss behavior, social withdrawal. Then from there we have, now, if a person have experienced all this, how does a person deal with this loss and grief? According to Radon, there are 3 phases of grieving with 6 hours of mourning. With 6 hours of mourning by Radon, who was a psychologist, came up with his theory of 3 grieving theory. And number 1 talks about avoidance phase, recognizing the loss, e.g., acknowledging and understanding the death. This is a place where now a person becomes isolated and dealing with this particular thing. You recognize the loss. Then from there you have confrontational phase, reacting to the separation, which includes experiencing the pain, expressing psychological reaction to the loss, and identifying and mourning secondary losses. We talk about confrontation is dealing with everything that has been brought by this loss. For instance, a person who has lost a parent, a child, this particular person is going to mourn the secondary losses, lack of school fees, lack of upkeeping, lack of life bills to be paid because it was done by the parent. This is now what we call confrontation, mourning for the secondary losses. Then we have the correction and experiencing the deceased and relationship, which includes cognitive and affective dimensions. At this particular moment, you find that experiencing the deceased, I wish he was here, I wish he was there, I wish these things could have been done by this particular person. This is what we call recorrecting and re-experiencing the deceased and relationship, which includes cognitive and affective dimensions. Relinquishing the old attachments to the deceased and the old assumptive worlds. Try now to look at how the attachment was, and now trying to think, how can I change this particular attachment? Then we have number 3, and we have accommodation phase. We talk about this phase number 3, the accommodation phase. They are adjusting to the move adaptively into the new world without forgetting the old. You are now getting into the new world without forgetting what the relationship was all about. Then reinvesting in new relationship. Then after this, the person get healed, and now he reinvests in a new relationship. Try now to get into a new relationship. There is something else that happens uh, when controlling and try to manage this particular problem: cognitive restructuring. Here, the reality of the loss is accepted, but the individual focuses on the favorable aspects, such as how well they are coping with the transformative aspect of loss. Then, cognitive restructuring. Then you have cognitive avoidance or denial. These include strategies that then avoid, minimize the loss. Other examples can include managing thoughts, selecting times and places where one avoid grief, or use diversion to avoid focusing on the grief. When you try now to get to places whereby you are going to forget about this particular loss and the grief, so that you intermingle with your friends, to go from somewhere to visiting, maybe you can go for an outing with your friends, so that you divert your mind from what was happening. Then information seeking, obtaining information to allow the grievers to understand, the validate one's response, and assess possible strategies to adapt to the losses. Uh, to understand, try now to look for new ways, getting information and trying to know what you can do. Then there is making meaning, trying to develop coherent narratives of meaning of the deceased life and death that allows bereaved individual to understand that the loss of their grief and distract new identity. Try to see what was this particular person doing, so that now you make meaning of what this particular person was doing, which can help in reconstructing a new identity about this particular person. So that by reconstructing new identity about this particular person, you now develop new way of handling this particular problem. So that, for instance, somebody was running a business, and now you are the one who has been left, and you are the firstborn. You knew what your father was doing, how your mother was doing these things. Now you make meaning of the situations that your father has left, so that you start from there and you move on as you try to get more about these particular aspects, so that you move on and help others that have been left, because maybe you can be the firstborn or be the person who was next to your parents. This is about loss and grief, and we have defined loss and grief in summary, and we have seen 3 stages of loss and grief, and the way to restructure your mind, cognitive restructuring, so that you live a well improved life after losing something. And we talk about loss. It is not loss about properties. If you look at Mount Kenya, they have lost. They have been so much eyeing their eyes on their leader, who is Gachagua, but as we speak, he has been impeached by the parliament against their will. So to them, they are mourning. And if somebody can listen to this clip, you can share with them, so that to understand, impeaching Gachagua is not the end of the game. And even Kenyans are mourning. If you go to the change of NHIF due to SHA, it is also another problem. And many other things that are happening within the country. There's skyrocketing of life properties. Maybe we talk about expenses, life expenses, they are skyrocketing every day. Everything are changing, and you lose, the money loses the value, and when the money loses the value, then you also look as if you have lost a lot. So it is very important to understand how loss and grief comes, because many a times when loss and grief comes, there are those people who are left outside. They are never taken care of. We shall continue with these particular aspects of loss and grief, and we shall look more in details about loss and grief and what we can do about it. Because each and every day we are losing a relative, we are losing a friend, we are losing everything, we are losing jobs, and losing many things. And this may end up bringing us into a mental problem. Thank you. As we continue next time, we shall look more about loss and grief.